Yeah.
Okay, so that's if you want to go there for a moment. I
Let's
think
go
that's kind of like going to the punchline. And for me, I've participated in these war games, which is what they are.
Yeah.
Okay, we call them epidemic outbreak planning scenarios, or whatever euphemism you want. They're war games. Okay, and the outcome of the war game is a battle plan. That is the deliverable from these war game scenarios, is a battle plan. Basically, we can use whatever pretty words around it we want, but that's what's really happening. Okay, and it's a culture and an approach that is used by militaries all over the world for good reason, because it works. You know, it's the best way to anticipate a major conflict. And in a lot of ways, a major public health outbreak like this is like a war. It really is, with all of the fog of war and all the metaphors apply. Okay, but the honest truth is that there has been this kind of war game scenario planning going on for a couple of decades. They have become increasingly refined and granular. They have largely been run through Johns Hopkins. There's a center there that is known to have intelligence ties with the United States government, intelligence community. And more recently, they have been predominantly funded by the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Basically, big pharma, big government, and media are all hand in hand. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
they all participate. So major media players that you would recognize from CNN and other outlets in the New York Times are brought in to play the role of representing the media interests, for example. And what they've done most recently, and the most recent one was in the fall of 2019. And it is true that it was built around a coronavirus scenario. That's all true. You can go on the website, look it up, and you can find the plan. And as these things have become more sophisticated under the guise of enabling a global response, other representatives of other governments have been brought in, like, say, representatives of Canadian government, Australian government, New Zealand government, and the CCCP have all participated in these planning scenarios or war games. And there's some oddities about how, so anytime you run one of these scenarios, because this is all mock-up, right? So you're given a set of parameters, a set of assumptions. And key assumptions that have always been built into these is that it's a highly pathogenic agent that is highly infectious. Okay, so it kills a lot of people. So, you know, the assumption is 1918, the Spanish flu is a misnomer. It was really from the United States, but that kind of mortality, or Ebola-like mortality, or they assume really high mortality. They assume that a vaccine is developed which is highly effective. They assume, they never speak about repurposed drugs. They typically, you can imagine from the scenario that I'm talking about, they bring together people that have a little bit of an orientation towards authoritarianism, gently put. And for some reason, when you set all those parameters in play and you have everybody play the little game of chess that they play, and it's imagining worldwide chess, right? They're playing as if they're the leaders of the world and running the scenario. They inevitably seem to end up with authoritarian outcomes and the need to impose something on a population using force. That seems to be the outcome that they always arrive at. And when you look at the planning and the scenarios, a case can be made that what we've experienced is pretty much running in lockstep with those outcomes. Now, is it because it was intentional and planned and they released the virus and all that? I can't, there's no way to know that right now. Somebody must know, but there's no way to know. It is a little odd that I got a call from a CIA officer in Wuhan on January 4th. Okay, that's just the way it is. And I was more recently called by a colleague of mine who's very senior in the Department of Defense as a civilian employee. And he said, Robert, stop talking about that. That didn't happen. We had no personnel in the country. Okay, and when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, thank you very much. This is a guy I've known since he was a postdoc. Okay, he called me and specifically said that don't believe your lying eyes and ears. Okay, believe what we tell you. So that sounds to me like confirmation. That's the way I interpret that. I don't know about your audience, but so that's where we're at. Now here's what this is kind of a little bit giving the benefit of the doubt, let's say. Let's try to be gentle. This is aloha, right? Yeah. We're all about being chill and trying to be nice. Good people,
but yes.
Yeah, right? Yeah, fair enough. Okay, but let's assume for the moment that these are people that sincerely believe they're trying to do the right thing and that it's not about depopulation and the Great Reset.
Right.
For the sake of argument.
Yes.
Okay?
Because we're not conspiracy theorists,
yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's just assume that. So what we do have is basically a battle plan that has been devised with participation of people like Justin Trudeau and the governor of California and the person that's leading the outbreak response in Australia and many other people and people that have significant positions in the United States government currently. And they've devised this battle plan based on these assumptions that were flawed. And I deal with the DoD all the time and those folks that are trained as military officers. And they know that a battle plan is only as good until the first skirmish, and then you have to change everything and reevaluate based on the ground truth. It seems to me that what's happened is that they have been locked in. This is our plan, this is what we're going to implement, and they haven't adapted it to the evolving ground truth. I think that's the kindest way I can interpret this.
Because the ground truth would be to
the vaccines don't work very well. Okay. We do have repurposed drugs, and the pathogen is not that highly pathogenic. Okay, so it's like the three core assumptions that they made here are not valid, but they are locked into this, which one of my favorite sayings in all of this, as a father and now a grandfather, and many of the audience will appreciate this. Anybody that's a parent. Is you give a 3-year-old a hammer and everything becomes a nail. And it's kind of like they've got a hammer and they're going to hit everything as if it's a nail.